Okay, so picture this, one of the absolute driest, most inhospitable places on our entire planet. And then, something impossible happens. It's a wild story about a mysterious lake, a frantic cover-up, and a discovery so bone-chilling it was literally buried in concrete almost immediately. I mean, just think about that for a second. A secret so ancient it predates all of human history as we know it. Something that was deliberately buried, meant to stay hidden forever. Now what if, just by a complete fluke of nature, it all came rushing back to the surface? Well, that's pretty much exactly where our story kicks off. In early 2024, a gigantic lake just materializes in the Algerian Sahara. But just as fast as it showed up, some very powerful, very shadowy forces made damn sure that it and whatever it uncovered disappeared from the public eye. To really get what happened, you have to understand just how bizarre this whole event was. This wasn't some flash flood. From day one, this was an anomaly that just defied every logical explanation. Gets this. We're talking about a body of water covering 7 square miles. It appeared almost overnight, and its depth just kept growing, day by day. And this isn't a place that gets next to no rain. Geologists were completely stumped. This water wasn't coming from the sky, it was being pushed up from deep, deep underground. And the reaction? Man, it was immediate. An information blackout. Within 48 hours of the first satellite images hitting the web, all public access was shut down. NASA's live feeds of the area suddenly blank. By the second week, the Algerian government just declared the whole place a restricted zone. The official line was basically, nothing to see here, which, as you know, almost always means there is absolutely something to see. You know who wasn't surprised, though? The local Bedouin tribes. They were terrified. Their ancient legends talk about a lake that drinks men, a mysterious pool that shows up out of nowhere, swallows people and animals, and then just vanishes. For them, this wasn't some cool geological event. It was the return of the eye of death. They said the air smelled like iron and decay, and you could hear this low humming sound coming from the ground at night. So, this impossible lake is here, and the world is being systematically blocked from seeing it. What happens next? Well, a massive and totally secret operation gets underway. And this is the million-dollar question, right? If this was just a natural aquifer bursting, you'd have scientists from all over the world flocking to study it. Instead, the response was more like what you'd see for a crashed UFO. So, the official story they fed everyone was hydrological research. But what the locals saw was a completely different picture. Not science fans, but military trucks. Not little sample jars, but massive industrial pumps and thick, heavy-duty cables. And that safety zone wasn't for safety. It was enforced by armed guards who wouldn't let anyone near it. This wasn't research. This was an extraction. Every night, under the cover of total darkness, this huge operation was in full swing. Convoys of unmarked trucks moved across the desert with their headlights off. The only sound was the roar of massive generators and pumps. And the water levels started to drop. But not because of evaporation. No, it was being actively pumped out. And nobody knew where it was all going. And this is why. This is the reason for all the secrecy. Because as the water level dropped, something started to emerge from the bottom. Something that had been buried for thousands and thousands of years. Incredibly, before they could lock the site down completely, a French technician on one of the crews managed to leak some drone footage. It's grainy, it's shaky, but it shows us exactly what this whole secret operation was trying to hide. Down there on the lake bed were these massive structures. And these were not natural rock formations. We're talking perfect circles, dead straight lines, all made of this black stone stretching for almost 2 kilometers. Geologists confirmed the materials, basalt and obsidian, don't even exist naturally in this part of the Sahara. They were brought here. And suddenly, older, classified radar surveys that had detected strong metallic signals in this exact spot years ago, well, they started to make a whole lot of sense. Now you might be thinking, hold on, a massive city in the middle of the Sahara? How? It's crucial to remember that the Sahara wasn't always a desert. During what's called the African humid period, this entire area was a green, lush landscape. It was a paradise of rivers and forests where an advanced civilization could have absolutely thrived before the sands reclaimed everything. But those ruins, they were just the tip of the iceberg. The real discovery, the reason they brought in tons of concrete and went into full cover-up mode, was buried even deeper. As they were clearing out the basin, the teams found it, a sealed chamber. It was made of this weird, smooth, seamless black stone and buried under a thick, rock-hard layer of salt and clay. It was almost like nature itself had tried to entomb whatever was inside. The second they breached it, everything went haywire. The walls inside were covered in carvings of these tall, disturbingly thin figures with long, elongated skulls. One carving weirdly showed water flowing upwards, as if gravity was reversed, swallowing these figures. And then the equipment started failing. Radiation meters started screaming. Compasses were just spinning wildly. The crew was immediately ordered out, and within 24 hours, the entire chamber was gone, permanently sealed under tons and tons of concrete. But before they poured the concrete, linguists got a chance to translate a few fragments of the text on the walls. It wasn't history. It wasn't a story. It was a command, a chilling, direct warning to bury the deep ones beneath salt and stone so they would not rise. That one line changes everything. And to really understand what it means, we have to zoom out, not just from the lake, but from the ancient geography of the entire African continent. You see, sediment cores taken from the site proved this wasn't just an ancient lake bed. It was the floor of a forgotten ocean. The Trans-Saharan Seaway, a massive inland sea that existed up to 50,000 years ago, basically splitting Africa in two. This civilization didn't just live by a lake, they lived on the shores of an ocean. And here's where it all clicks into place. The final piece of the puzzle came from the carvings themselves. They told the story of a cataclysmic event they called the collapse of the sky ocean. They weren't just describing a flood, they were describing the day their entire sea just vanished. What's absolutely mind-blowing is that this story isn't an outlier. You start looking and you see these bizarre echoes of it in myths from totally unrelated cultures across the globe. The Sumerians, they talked about a great flood sent to wipe out a race of powerful pre-human builders. The Book of Enoch, it describes powerful beings called Watchers who were buried deep within the earth as a punishment. The Dogon people in Mali have legends of beings from the stars who were forced back beneath the waters. It's the same story, over and over. A powerful, non-human race, a cataclysm, and then a burial. So what does all this point to? It means that the teams in the Sahara didn't uncover some lost city or ancient temple. They found a prison, a crypt intentionally sealed with a natural barrier of salt and clay, and left with one desperate plea: do not disturb whatever is trapped inside. The operation to drain that lake may have breached a containment system that has held for 50,000 years. Sure, they sealed the structure with concrete, but what about the humming from the ground, the weird radiation spikes? It suggests something was disturbed, woken up. And that leaves us with one final, terrifying question. The warning said, so they would not rise. Have we just opened the door?